when I counted all of those up, I came, and including the yarns that I still had yet to do, I came to a grand total of not enough, basically. I'm going to have 15 total squares, and I came to 14, which confirmed for me that I did at some point lose one of these little sets. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 297 of the Love in Stitches podcast, and welcome to Montana. We are all moved into our new place in Bozeman, and it feels really good to be sitting down and doing a podcast this week. We've spent the last 2 weeks moving, so it was pretty chaotic, basically 3 days of driving, and then I guess it's been just over a week since we actually got into the apartment, had all of our stuff in here, and we've just been getting it settled ever since. As you can see, I have my yarn somewhat organized behind me. I did film a video when I unpacked everything, so this is like a very small fraction of what I actually have. Most of it's in the closet. I am going to be working through it in the new year. And I wanted to say at the top of the episode, this is going to be the last podcast episode of the year because next week is December and I am starting Vlogmas. So Vlogmas is going to be coming out 3 times a week is what I'm doing this year. I'm thinking Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So look for the first episode on December 1st and then December 3rd, December 5th, and then I don't know what the dates are the following week, but 3 times a week is my goal. And it's really fun. Vlogmas is pretty different from podcasting. Podcasting, I sit down in one spot and I just kind of talk you through what I've been working on and what's been going on in my week. With Vlogmas, I actually get to show you. So I take you around the house. I'll take you around town. We have some fun events that we're already planning to do here in Bozeman. We're hopefully going to get some snow in the next week, so I'll be able to show that. I have no idea what we're going to be getting up to, but I'll also show all of my December and Advent projects in detail throughout those episodes. So there's no need to also do a podcast in December because it would just be reiterating everything that I'd already shared. So I hope you enjoy those episodes. It's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's something that I have done even longer than the podcast, actually. So it's something that's really a big part of our December and kind of our tradition at this point. I think the only other thing I wanted to share is what I'm wearing today. So I got to unpack all of my clothes that were put into tubs, into storage, and a lot of that was knitted items. I don't really have that many clothes anymore. I'm sure I'll kind of build on them a little bit now that we're stationary, but in the van, I had the same like 3 or 4 t-shirts that I wore over and over again, my wool t-shirts. But now I actually can have a little more fun with my outfits because I'm reunited with all of the garments that I knitted in the past. And this was one of them. So when I unpack things, I was like, hey, I'm going to start wearing more knitting. It's the right time of the year. So this is Something Cozy by Shayna Billow. Let me make sure, yes, that I got that right. I knit it in Chelsea Luxe yarn. It's a boucle held together with a mohair, I'm pretty sure. And the really fun, like multicolor is Chelsea's Coupe, I want to say. I'll put my project page below. I just looked at it, but I already forgot the most important details. Oops. But yeah, it's really fun. It's just like a big oversized thing. It's really easy to make. It's a great beginner pattern because it's oversized. The fit doesn't have to be perfect. You make it in, I think, front and back. Yeah, looks like I have a seam in here somewhere. And then you pick up and do the sleeves. And you can see it's got a huge drop shoulder. Like this is my elbow. And it's drop shouldered all the way out to there. So very comfy, very oversized. I did make mine a little short, so I tend to wear like a t-shirt or something underneath it. But yeah, I love it. It's a great wear around the house thing, but I also will wear it out as well. Okay, I've got 3 projects. And I have them all organized in their own little baskets. This makes me so happy. I think it's going to take me some time to figure out my podcasting setup, but I'm not too stressed about it since, again, this is the last podcast of the year and I will have until next year to figure that out. But we are going to be getting a little love seat right here. Kent and I share this space. So on one side, like behind the camera here, I have my desk. And so then when I'm doing Zooms and stuff, I have all my stuff behind me. And Kent's the same thing. He's right next to me. He has his own shelf full of all of his things that he loves. So in between, we're thinking a little couch. So I may sit there, for the podcast, but I really don't know yet. So come back in the new year. You may see a different setup, but we'll just have to wait and see how that works. But yeah, I'd love to share my projects with you today. I'm also going to be sharing or answering some questions, sharing a few announcements about what's coming up in the new year, and also just sharing with you a little bit of life of what's been happening here in Bozeman. I had a near tragedy this week with my main project, which is right here. So this is my Quilt Too blanket by A Little Nitty Designs. I've been working on it since October. If you're feeling like me, I'm ready to be done with this project, but I have been very disciplined and I have been working on it a little bit every single day. But it is going to be a blanket for Kent, and it is made up of all these little squares that get joined into bigger squares. So since I last recorded a podcast, which was 2 weeks ago, I have completed 3 squares and I should be done with one more today. So here are those squares. So the yarn I'm using is from The Little Wolf Knits. It is a Beetlejuice themed countdown that we opened up in October. And this was always meant to be for Kent. Like, he picked out the yarn. He's the one who wanted to get it. He picked out the pattern and he paired together all of these colors. So it's been really fun. Before we left Tennessee, I wound everything up and I got it all set into these little bags. So like this coming week, I'll be working these 2 colors together and these 2 colors together. And there should be one more. So here's where the tragedy happened. When I got all of my yarn out this week, I had a big tote bag with a bunch of project bags in it that I had packed before we left Tennessee. So I had access to all of my current whips during our move. And I worked on it in Tennessee, and then I worked on it, in and out of hotels, in and out of our moving truck as we drove here over 3 days. And then once we got here, I was working out of it. And then about a week after we got here, I unpacked it onto the shelf and I counted my little baggies, and I remembered that I had one extra set that was going to take me beyond November. So what I've been doing, my schedule, if you will, so far, is I try to work, and actually this is my current color. I try to work one of these every single day. It takes me about 2 hours. So it is a lot. It's taking up almost all of my knitting time, but it's fine. I'm getting it done. So I work one of these every single day. On the weekend, I have to work one extra. So 8 little squares a week, which totals to 2 big squares 8 little squares. Yeah, 2 big squares a week. So that's been my schedule for like the past, month or so, ever since I got my stuff together and have been seaming them and everything. So a few weeks ago when Kent paired everything up, I wound everything, I put it into little baggies. I counted out like how many more weeks am I going to be working on this? And I had exactly 2 packs per week all the way through the end of November. And then I was going to have one extra pack the first week of December. So my plan was, if I was ahead, which I'm not, that I would try to incorporate those last 2 colors into some of the other weeks so that I could finish all the squares by the end of November. Or worst case, I would just work on that last square throughout December. So I knew in my mind that I was not going to finish by the end of November on my current schedule because I had that extra bit, right? So when I get here and I unpack and I see I only have 2 left and that I'm going to exactly end in the last week of November, I was like, that just doesn't seem right. I was a little worried at that point that maybe some yarn had gone missing. And I wasn't 100% sure because I thought maybe I just worked it up already. And I was getting a lot of knitting done on the driving days of our move. So I thought maybe I actually have worked ahead and I have a finished square somewhere that I've already done. In my gut, I knew that wasn't true, but I told that to myself. And so when I finally had the chance to count up all of my squares that I've done so far, so I've got these 3 guys, and then I have at the bottom of this basket, I don't know, however many are in here. When I counted all of those up, I came, and including the yarns that I still had yet to do, I came to a grand total of not enough, basically. I'm going to have 15 total squares and I came to 14, which confirmed for me that I did at some point lose one of these little sets. And so as soon as I realized that, I was so sad for Kent, really, because I felt terrible. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to finish this project correctly. Like, I could always pull some yarns. I have other Little Wolf Knits colors that could go in there, but it's not going to be the same as having all of the mini skeins together that are supposed to go into this project. I looked through my project bags, I like all my current ones, I looked through all of these baskets. I even started getting out the tubs that are in the closet here and started looking through those, because I thought maybe when I was pulling everything out, it just slipped out and fell somewhere. And I thought, best case scenario, it's here somewhere and I'm just going to find it later. But then I started to get worried that maybe I left it in the moving truck or I left it in a hotel room. There was 2 nights that we stayed at hotels on our way up here. And I was telling my friends on the Love and Stitches membership on Zoom, and they were like, well, what if it's in Tennessee? And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe it never made it on the move in the first place. So I called my mom and she went into the bedroom that we were using when we were staying at their house. And I was like, okay, picture this. It was on top of a little dresser. So I'm like, look around the floor of the dresser if you can. Look around. It was also next to the bed. So I'm like, maybe look under the bed, maybe look at the little, bedside table and look all around there. So she's looking underneath all those things. And I knew that I had also checked that, because that's what you do, right? Whenever you leave a space, especially if you're moving out, or like when I leave a hotel room, I always look like under the bed and everything, because sometimes I drop stuff. And I had looked all those places and I hadn't seen anything. So I wasn't surprised when she said she didn't see anything. But then she looked behind the headboard of the bed and she found my missing yarn. She sent me a picture, so I'll put it in here. So the missing yarn is found. It's in Tennessee, and hopefully it will get to me soon. I'm still not going to finish this by the end of November, which is totally fine, but I'm just really glad that it's not missing. And now I'm just crossing my fingers that it makes the journey safely from Tennessee to Montana and doesn't get lost in the mail, because that would be really sad. So yeah, I was a little bit panicky for about 24 hours there when I couldn't find it. I wasn't sure what to do. I told Kent, like I admitted to him, I've lost the yarn. I don't know where it is, and was really happy the next day when I was able to tell him that it was found. So not much else to say about this project. That's the most exciting thing that happened in the last couple of weeks. I'm just trucking along. I've got 3 out of 4 squares of my current color. I started the 4th and final square of this one just during my lunch break a little bit ago. So I'm hopefully going to get that one finished and sewn up today. And then this week will be all about these 2 colors, and that will finish out November and finish out all the yarn I currently have. And then I'll just be waiting for the missing yarn to make its way here to me in Montana to finish that up. And then I don't know. I just know in December I lose a lot of motivation for whips that aren't part of my Advent making, and I'm planning to start a brand new blanket that I'm really excited about December 1st. So it's possible that this will go on pause, on a hiatus, until maybe the end of December, maybe January, but we'll just have to see. I mean, there's also that little spark of motivation that I usually get when I'm so close to the end of a project that might happen, but I also don't want to stress myself out and like kind of ruin the joy of Advent making by also focusing on this. So if I have to wait a little bit longer to finish it, that will be just fine. So, yep, just staying disciplined, and this one will be done hopefully very soon. I am already loving this system that I have here with my whips. This is me trying to stay within 3 whips, like 3 things that I'm actually focused on. I do have another tub in the closet that has, I would say, unfinished objects, things that are not top of mind, but I'm trying to stay limited. And I really like this. It's very easy for me to walk over here and grab something or like put my finished squares in there until I have all of them and sew them up. Anyway, it's been very, very nice. So the next thing that I have been working on, I was finally able to give some attention to my the baby blanket that I'm making for my sister-in-law. She is having a baby next year, early next year. And so I am working on a blanket to hopefully gift to her, maybe around Christmas or just at some point before the baby is born. And it is called the Heart Blanket from Heart to Heart by Yarn Sonata. This designer has a lot of really lovely blanket patterns, so it's very hard to choose, but I ended up choosing this one. And now that I have more done on it, the last time I showed it, which I think was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just had a little bit. So I just had like one heart repeat done. So now that I have a bit more done, you can really see the pattern start to shine. So it's all these really lovely garter stitch hearts that are connected by these crisscrossing lines. It's super memorizable, quite easy to do once you get the pattern established. I think the first row was the hardest because I was just counting and making sure I got those purls exactly where they're supposed to go. And now it's like smooth sailing. As long as you can read where your purl stitches are, you're able to go, okay, I need to go like one over from that, or I need to go like one beyond that. And it's quite intuitive. So I'm really enjoying this. And I'm also enjoying working on something with a little bit of a larger needle. I think I'm using a 6, a US 6 here. A US 5 and DK weight yarn. I am using Ultra Wool from Barocco. And I think this is like their cream color or something. It's 3301. That's the color name. So I've got plenty of that still left. I've got 4 untouched skeins. I did get into my second skein here this week, this past week, I guess, and I joined it in right there. So I got a good amount onto the blanket before I joined in my second skein. I was a little unsure if I'd have enough yarn, especially because I'm planning to modify the border and add a crochet border, which is why I didn't include the garter stitch border in my cast on stitches. And if you remember from a few weeks ago, this was the sample that I worked up. So I'm planning to do this border, which is from a crochet pattern called the Yorkshire blanket, on this. So I've still got a little figuring out to do to make everything match nicely, but that's like a later down the road problem. So I think I'm going to be hopefully okay. I know for the knitting of the blanket, I'll have plenty of yarn, but hopefully I'll be able to add in that crochet border with no problem with the yarn that I currently have. I bought out every single skein in this dye lot from my local yarn store back in Tennessee, Bliss Yarns. So this is all I got. This is it. So hopefully it works out fine. I did want to finish this project in November, but also that is not going to happen. And it's kind of funny. I was doing some planning this past Saturday, and I use a notebook. Actually, this one right up here. I use a notebook when I'm doing my knitting plans. I also use a notebook when I'm doing like work plans or brainstorming of any kind. So I was doing some planning for like my schedule for the week, and I just happened to flip in here. And now, of course, I'm probably not going to find it. I should have like marked it before, but I found in here my pre-Advent plans from last year, basically my plan to finish up whips. Hold on, give me just a second and I'll find it. It was literally like the first page in this notebook. Okay, so it says Advent prep. My to-do list was I needed to finish my Halloween socks. I needed to finish my Salty Days sweater. I wanted to wind up the first 7 of the minis that I was going to use for my Advent project that year because it was a previous year's Advent. It says wind FW yarns. That I have no idea what that means. And to knit 2 cups. Oh yes. Last year I got the Freckled Whimsy. That's what FW is. I got the Freckled Whimsy self-striping sock kit. I have another self-striping sock kit this year from another dyer. So my plan was to get that wound and knit the 2 cuffs so that I'd be ready for day 1. So I don't think I had quite as many whips to finish last year as I did this year, but it was very funny to see that I was doing the same kind of thing that I'm doing now, where I'm trying to finish up whips. I am thinking at the end of this week, the day after American Thanksgiving, I'm going to get everything prepped for December 1st. So I'm going to have again, a pair of socks to do. This year I have one Advent, one mini skein Advent that I am going to be opening on that day, winding up that skein and then using it for my project. But I do have some other things to wind and prep. So yeah, it's a very similar year. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I definitely did not end up getting my Salty Days finished last year because if you remember, I had an issue with the bottom band and also with the sleeves. And so I ended up coming to fix that later on, I want to say. But yeah, it was just funny. Very humbling to realize that things don't really change all that much. So this blanket, my Heart to Heart blanket, it is not going to be finished by the end of November. I have to say, if I do find myself with some extra knitting time, some spare knitting time in December, I'm going to prioritize the Heart to Heart blanket over Kent's blanket because that baby blanket has more of a deadline and I want to get it finished to send off to my sister-in-law. So I don't love going into the end of the year having so many things that I still want to wrap up and finish, but that is just the reality and it's okay. Again, it's just knitting. It'll be totally fine. But I'm already starting to think ahead. Like, I think I've been really confronted with the size of my yarn stash and the amount of projects that I want to do and the amount of things that I already have lined up, that I just am feeling like I need to be finishing things and being productive. So there's going to be a lot of that coming in the future. I'm very excited for it. Just doing this right here makes me feel so much more on top of things. It's not even funny. I have one more project that I have been working on that just made it into this episode because I worked on it yesterday, and that is my Tier Buddies. So Tier Buddies are a pattern by Deborah of Winterberry Studio. They are these really cute little animal cuddly guys made out of cotton. And there are tons of different animals that you can make. You can obviously make them for whomever you want, but I am going to be donating these to Deborah, and she will then take them to the I think it's the Wills Eye Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where they are going to be distributed to children who are going through eye cancer treatment. So I finished up my lamb that I had knitted last time. I just hadn't done the little stuffing on the head. So I didn't have any polyfill, and I was planning to go out and buy some once we made it here. I just didn't want to buy any and then have to move with it. So I said, I'm just waiting on polyfill until I'm finished. And my friend Casey reached out to me and said, I have a massive bag of polyfill. Let me just send you some. So she ended up sending me 2 gallon-sized bags of polyfill, which is absolutely perfect because this uses hardly any, like a tiny cotton ball size is what Deborah told us to put in here. And so I have plenty to do that with, but I'm also planning to maybe do one of the gnomes this December is my maybe plan. So now I have plenty of stuffing for that as well, and for any future Tier Buddies that I make. So this one was already knitted. I just needed to do the finishing. So it's all knit flat. You start at the bottom. It's like a traditional dishcloth where you do increasing and then decreasing. This one also has little arms. Some of them have 2 arms, some of them have 4, and the arms will actually be tied in a knot. But since I'm sending these off to Deborah, I'm leaving them untied because she will wash them and then tie them after washing. So I'm just leaving them untied. But the lamb turned out really cute. I am very happy with that. And then I wanted to make at least one more before I sent them off. So I did start another one, which you can't tell what it is yet, but it is this like pinky purple color, and it is going to be an elephant. So her elephant pattern is really cute. It's got different ears and a big trunk. And I think I'm just going to make this one all purple because my colors to choose from are brown, cream, and purple, which are kind of dull for children. So I thought, let's just make the elephant purple all of the way. So I'm probably going to work on this guy later this afternoon. I do want to finish these up in December and go ahead and send them off. I might be making more in the future, but I don't want to sit on them for too long just because I know myself, and if something is sitting around, I do tend to forget about it. So I better go ahead and get those ones out the door off to Deborah, and then I will be attacking my cotton stash at a later date because I do have quite a lot to work with. If you are somebody who likes to make dishcloths or other items with like kitchen cotton and you end up with leftovers, these Tear Buddy patterns are really great to use those up. Most of hers are done with 2 colors or 3 colors, and like usually you change colors about halfway through, like when you get to, past the arms. But Deborah was showing us, we actually did an event this weekend with the Love and Stitches membership, and Deborah was on, and she had received a big bag of donated Tear Buddies, and she was showing us all of them. And this person who had created all these Tear Buddies used up used all different colors, and also did not stick to just like the half and half that the pattern is often shown in. They had changed colors like maybe at this point, or like changed colors here, and you could tell they were using up what they had, and it still looked so good. So if you have those little leftovers and you're not sure what to do with them, I would highly recommend these because they're a great way to use it up. They're fun, they're easy, they're fast. I did all of this yesterday, on a 1-hour Zoom call. So I got quite a lot done. I'm actually just about ready to add in the arms on that one, which is a fun part because you feel like accomplished that you're halfway through. So yeah, I would really highly suggest those patterns because they are really fun. And if you don't have somebody in your own life to give them to, maybe a kid, or I don't know, even an adult, we can all use a little comfort sometimes. You can always send them to Deborah and she will make sure they get to a child who could really use them. So I think that's everything for my projects, at least this week. Again, I have Vlogmas coming up starting next week. I'm going to have 3 brand new projects that I'm starting. So if you're getting a little, a little tired of seeing these same 3 guys, I don't think you're going to see these again for a long time, because hopefully in the new year, I have other stuff that I'm working on. And in Vlogmas, I have, like I said, 3 new projects. So I'm getting excited. It's giving me the drive that I need to be disciplined and continue to work on. Well, it's not the Tear Buddies and the Heart to Heart blanket. It's really just the Quilt Too blanket that I'm ready to be done with because I worked on it every single day for 2 months. But yeah, I'm excited for Vlogmas and everything that comes with it. So I hope that you will be too, and we'll finally get to see some new projects. Our first question this week comes from Chloe. Question: what is a good memory blanket for all your leftover yarns? I love this question. So I have made I think only one true leftover blanket, and I have it here. I'm going to show it, but I want to talk about like the distinction between a leftovers blanket, like scraps blanket, and a mini skein blanket, because I think they can be used interchangeably, but in my mind, they're kind of 2 different things, right? So you have the blanket like the Quilt Too blanket that I'm making right now, where I specifically have a mini skein set. There's exactly the same amount of yarn from each color. I have 20 grams of each color. They're all dyed together in a specific theme, the Beetlejuice theme, and I picked a pattern meant for that. And the pattern Quilt Too is specifically meant for Advent. So it's I think 24 20-gram minis plus a 100-gram skein, right? So it's kind of made for that like total amount of yarn. Could it be used for a leftovers blanket where you have varying amounts of leftover yarn from your projects? Absolutely. It would still totally work, but there are patterns I think that are better suited for having the same amount of yarn and a specific theme, like that Quilt Too, and then projects that are more suited to a more random amount of leftovers, that they're a little more flexible, they're a little easier to add to over the months and years. And so that's what I'm going to talk about when I answer this question. So I do have a bundle that is specifically for Advent patterns, but a lot of the patterns in that bundle are really suited for scraps and leftovers too. And I want to say that this one is in there. So the first blanket, and the only one that I do have available to show, is this one. So this is a modified Granny Stripes blanket by Lucy of Attic 24. If you are a crocheter familiar with the Granny Stitch, which is just a 3 double crochet cluster. I don't know if that's universal or not. I shouldn't say that, but yeah, it's just a 3 double crochet cluster, but the pattern is free on Lucy's blog. is meant for DK, but I modified mine to work for fingering weight after seeing another podcaster do the same thing. And so I have notes on like how many stitches, what size hook, and all of that on mine. So this is a project that took me 5 years to make, and I added to it over the years. So at first I kind of worked on it a lot, right? And I added in like all of my leftovers that I had. I cannot remember exactly how much yarn each stripe takes. So for the most part, I was doing 2 rows of each color. So you can see there's 2 rows of pink, 2 rows of green, 2 rows of brown, 2 rows of blue, and so on and so forth. Except that right here, there's only 1 yellow and 1 green and 1 blue. So early on in the blanket, I was weighing my yarn before I would work a row. So I knew, based on the amount of leftovers that I had, how far I could go. So I want to say it was something like 8 grams would get me 1 row. So then like 16 would get me 2. So I would weigh my yarns. And if they were less than 16 grams, I'd only do 1 row with them. If they were more than 16 grams, I would do 2 rows. And that's how I did this blanket. And I just added to it over the years. And then eventually, I want to say there was a time period where maybe one December I was working an Advent project. I think I was doing those what are they called? Granny squares. And then I still had a lot left over. So then I added in a stripe here. Where was that? Maybe here. There's a big section where there's only 1 row stripe. So I want to say that was probably, several Decembers ago, where every day my routine throughout December was make a granny square, add a granny stripe. And I just did that. So I think this is a great pattern that works to take in any and all leftovers. I mean, you still need a fair amount. It's not the tiniest amount, but it is varied. I've also seen people not even worry about stopping and starting at the beginning or end of a row, and they will just take, their leftover whatever weight yarn, and they will work it all the way up until it's done. And then they will join in a new color, whether it's the middle of the row or the end of the row, and then just keep on going. And it also looks really good. So you don't have to stay super disciplined in the amount of stripes, but I wanted mine to be a little more uniform. And I think it looks pretty good with the 2 and the 1 row stripes. So I love this one. I'll put the link to my project page and the pattern page down below. But that one is great if you are a crocheter. And then I don't have these to show because I haven't made them myself, but I was just taking a peek through the bundle that I created. And I feel like any kind of project where you are slowly building on it is going to be really suited to leftovers, more so than like a project where you're making individual things. So like individual squares might not work as well for leftovers because you're never really sure exactly how much you're going to have left over. Whereas like building on stripes or building in strips can work really well. So there's a very popular pattern. I am sure you've heard of it, but it is called the Jelly Roll Blanket by K.F. Jones. There is a knitted version that has been out for a few years that is very popular. You can go through and look at so many project pages and see the varying ways that people have made this blanket. There's also a crochet version that just came out within the last month. It looks like when Kay made her samples, she did kind of make each of the little strips somewhat even. I should probably show you what this looks like so you can see. Hold on, here we go. It's really cool. So this one is the jelly roll. Loading it up on a little bit bigger screen so I can zoom. So that is the knitted, oh my goodness, maybe Kent can get a picture in here for us, but that's the jelly roll blanket just so you get an idea. But you work these strips and then you work the next strip, joining it as you go. And so this looks like somewhat even amounts of yarn, but I've also seen people who just put in any amount of yarn they have, whether it's 2 grams or 20 grams, and it still looks really cool. I've also seen people do this with only self-striping yarn. It also looks very, very cool. So I think this is a great one because it doesn't take a ton of time for you to work that leftover in if you're looking for a project where you can finish your main project and immediately take your leftovers and have something to put it into. Like, these are your projects, I think, that work really well. Not just these patterns specifically, but things that are similar to this. I also did a blanket a number of years ago when I was trying to work up a lot of worsted and DK weight acrylic yarns that I had in my stash. it was at a time period where I was kind of evolving in my projects, and I was starting to go towards more natural fibers. And so I still had a lot of yarns that were perfectly good, but I just didn't really have a use for them anymore. And so I made a blanket where how did I do this? This was so long ago. This was like almost 8 years ago, I want to say at this point, or almost 9 years ago. Obviously I gathered all those yarns together, and then I want to say I put them in some kind of opaque bag so that I didn't see what was coming next. And I think I held DK or worsted weight yarn double and used like a really big needle, and I just did garter stitch. And I would work in garter stitch, holding those yarns double. I had like, a large cast on, a really long flexible needle, knitted. And then when one of the strands would run out, I would just reach into the bag and get another color, and I would magic knot it on. And then I would work until another one of the strands ran out, and I would reach into the bag. And I made a blanket in like a matter of 6 months or something. I remember it distinctly because Kent and I had just gotten married, and we were watching Lost. He was rewatching it and I was watching it for the first time. So every night when we sat down and watched an episode or two of Lost, I worked on that blanket, and I really didn't work on it any other time except when we were watching Lost. So it was like my Lost blanket, and also I worked up a ton of yarn that was not going to very good use in my other projects. So that's always really great. I'm also working on one right now that's a fingering weight version of exactly that. It's a pattern called the Cozy Comfort Throw by a Homespun House. With that one, I'm holding a neutral color strand of fingering weight throughout the entire thing. And the second strand is going to change with every 20 gram mini skein. For me, this one is not leftovers. It's a whole countdown calendar, but I think it would look really good with leftovers as well. Okay, there's so many more options out there. Please, everyone, share with us your favorite project. Did you even say blanket, or did I just assume? No, you did. You said memory blanket. So if you have any suggestions, please share them, and I'll also include the link to that Ravelry bundle below, because there's probably even more great options in there for that. Okay, that was a long answer. How long did I take? Oh my gosh, almost 10 minutes. We gotta speed up. This question is from Chris. I'm very interested in how you like the orange is the new black socks. Oh, I think you mean vanilla is the new black. I just read that and I was like, oh wait, I think you mean vanilla. Particularly the fit of the heel. Boy, I've been following you a long time. You are still teaching. Excited for whatever you decide to do for Vlogmas and your 300th episode. I think you will love Montana and the mountains. I live near the Sierras, and that's where my soul gets refreshed. Aw, thank you, Chris. Yes, so the vanilla is the new black socks. It's so funny. The first time I read that, I was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I didn't realize. So I brought one of my pairs of those socks so I can show them. These are actually damp because I just washed them as I wore them several times this week. So the vanilla is the new black sock pattern is by, I want to say, Anae Fletcher. And it looks like this. I'm holding the sock upside down. So this is where the heel starts. It is worked by increases with this lovely ribbing. And then you do a little bit of short rows for the heel turn. And it is a really nice, I want to say pretty deep way to do a heel without having to do a heel flap and gusset. But also you don't have to pick up stitches. Like, I don't know. It's a really lovely heel to knit. I really have enjoyed it, and it works great in stripes. Like, you get a slight variance in the width of your stripes. You can see how my blue one got a little skinnier as I gained more stitches. And then I just use a contrast color for the short rows, and I got back to my original stitch count, and everything is all good to go. So I love the way that this heel fits. I feel like it's a really good happy medium between the depth that you get from a heel flap and gusset, which a lot of people need if you have a high instep, and the ease of knitting that you get from a short row heel. I feel like I'm somewhat lucky because I can wear a short row heel. I do make some modifications when I knit a short row heel now. I do add some stitches, kind of almost like a gusset on its own, to help it fit better. but I almost prefer wearing these. I think they stay up even a little bit better. And yeah, I just really like them. I wear them a lot. These were the only ones. I think I've knit 4 pairs of Vanilla is the New Black socks. And these were the ones that look the best because I've worn the other ones so much that the back part is starting to get really, really felty and doesn't look as good anymore. And this is such a beautiful heel. I think it's so fun. I've done a couple of pairs too where I also did ribbing on the leg and incorporated that ribbing into there. And I just think it looks so nice there. That's it the right way. But yeah, it just fits your heel really nicely. I feel like you can kind of see how that would work, right? It kind of just cups your heel and it fits really great. So I love it. I think it's definitely worth a try. If you haven't done that heel before, give it a chance, see if you like it. It may become your new favorite heel. All right, last question here is from Lyra, I think. Hi, I have a question. What is the thing that you use to set your e-reader on in one of your videos from several months ago? Okay. It's called a flippy. It's my favorite thing. I use it every single day. If you see any of my Instagram stories, I usually start every day by knitting and reading, and I show my flippy in it because I'm reading and knitting, right? So this is the flippy. It is basically a hard piece of foam, really sturdy. This is actually the Flippy Junior. It's a little bit of a smaller size. Here's my Kindle for comparison. And you can set anything, I guess, that you want to prop up on it. I've put my phone on it. I've put my iPad on it. But I especially like it for reading. It does tilt back just slightly. And the reason it's called a flippy is because you can technically, like if you flip it on its different sides, you get different angles. So one's a little, further back. This one's a little more upright. This one is my favorite. That might be the furthest back one, I guess. I also use it at night actually too, because I have one of those clickers that you can use to flip your pages. So at night I do this. And when I'm laying down sideways, I can read and I just click, click, click through the pages. And I love it so much. Now, the original one I actually just found because this is the original flippy and it is huge. It's really big. So what I like about this one is that I would sit with it in my lap and it kind of, it's still not the perfect angle for your neck, but it does prop your book up so that you don't have to hold on to it, again, for knitting and reading. So this is the original size flippy. This one is the Junior, the one that I've been using for the past few years. I just recovered the big one. So I'm not sure they actually make the Junior anymore. They might only make the big one. So with this one, you could definitely fit like a full-size iPad. Here's my Kindle on this one. You can see it's much bigger. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this one yet. I'm going to see if Kent would like to use it for anything first, because I think I'm happy with this size. And then I end up putting this, I also have a lap desk because I wanted to get my head up in a little better alignment. So in the mornings when I'm knitting and reading, I flip my Kindle this way, I set this on top of the lap desk, and I knit and read my happy little mornings away. It's like the best part of my day every day. I look forward to it so much. But yeah, that's the flippy. I got mine on Amazon, so I can share a link down below if you would like to check them out for yourself. I'm sure there are lots of other really great options, but I like that this one has that like hard foam rather than something a little bit squishier or softer where you're always going to be manipulating it into a shape that you like. Okay, that's all of the questions for today. If you do have any questions for me, you're welcome to leave them down below. I will get back into my podcasting routine in the new year and be answering questions, but I'll also try to answer some in the comments since there's going to be such a long gap. I have a couple quick announcements since this is the last podcast of the year that I just wanted to share a little bit ahead of time for what's coming up in the next few weeks and in the new year. So the first thing is that the Love and Stitches membership is going to be opening up in January. So it will open January 6th and will be open through January 11th. When you sign up in January, you're signing up for like our first term of the year. We do 3 terms a year, and this one is going to be January February, March, and April. I think by the time that this goes live, I will have more information on what's actually coming in those few months, but I don't want to share it quite yet just in case. I also need to share it with all of our current members, so just be on the lookout. I will put the link for the membership down below so you can see everything that is included. We do a lot of events on Zoom every single month. We do make-alongs. I have a lot of really exciting stuff coming for the new year, a lot of really exciting guests that I'm just happy. It's going to be so much fun. I feel really good and planned ahead for what's coming in this whole next year. I think now that we're not traveling, I'm able to be even more involved in getting on Zooms and everything. So I'm just in a really good place with that. And we would love to have you come and join us. It's a really fun community. Vlogmas is coming up December 1st through, I think it's going to be like the 24th will be my last time posting. Again, I'm posting 3 times a week this year. It's a change from the daily posting that I've done for the last 6 years, I want to say, or yeah, maybe I started in 2018, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if I like it. And you can let me know if you like it too, but thank you. I know a lot of you shared that you were supportive of me doing a little less posting during Vlogmas season. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then the last thing is I had a video come out in the last week, I want to say, all about Advent patterns, new ones for 2025. There's been a ton of new ones that have been released since then. And that same bundle that I was talking about with the blanket patterns is where I put every single pattern that comes across either my feed, my Ravelry, or that people have sent to me. I put them into that Advent bundle, and it's just a continually evolving resource of great knit and crochet patterns that are suited for mini skeins, advents, or countdowns, or leftovers. So I will put the link to both the bundle and that video, the new one for 2025, in the description. Lastly, let's talk about what has been going on these last 2 weeks. It has been a whirlwind. We were very fortunate to be able to take some time off from filming videos and from doing other like background work to just focus on moving these last 2 weeks, which was really such a blessing. We are now just about entirely unpacked, I want to say. We're like 10 days out from when we moved in, and everything went really smooth with our move from Tennessee here to Bozeman, Montana. So I feel really grateful for that. We got a rental truck. Kent drove the truck all the way here. It took us about 3 days of driving, 2 nights of sleeping in hotels. We had about 5 days where we did not have a mattress. So now we have a mattress. Things are looking up. We got all the big boxes unpacked within like the first 3 days. And then we just now have a ton of cardboard that we need to take out to recycling and a little bit of fine tuning to do, right? Like I wanted to not do what we did in New York, which is we sat with boxes in our way in such a small apartment for way too long. It was very stressful. So with this move, Kent and I both talked and planned, and we were like, let's really hustle to get some things done pre-move so that during the move, we feel comfortable being able to pause work for a little bit, focus entirely on the move, and get ourselves all set before we get back into the work week this coming week. So we did that. It was such a good idea because there's a lot to do when you move. It's not just unpacking. It's like we had to go get all of our grocery essentials again. We bought flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder. Like we have none of those things. We needed a car. We got a car this week, which was really exciting. We did not have a car because prior to travel, we were living in New York City in an apartment, and so we didn't need a car. And so we do have our van, but it is definitely not an everyday vehicle. So we needed a regular car. So we got a car this week, which is kind of crazy. It's like, wow, we did a lot. We did a lot this week. So being able to get all of that done, get everything settled. The last kind of area that I did was the office and my yarn. And so having that into place really feels like the last piece of the puzzle. And I'm just now I'm excited just to get back into the normal routine of things, figure out what life looks like here, try new restaurants, find friends, do all kinds of things here in Bozeman. I did actually do a lot of socializing. Well, for me, I feel like for moving to a new place this week. So the first thing I did is I got connected with a knitting friend here in Bozeman from a knitting friend back in Tennessee. So we were connected before we got here. So I knew already that I had somebody to meet up with. So we went and got coffee and we chatted and we knitted, and it was really wonderful. So that was like right at the beginning of our first full week here. So that was really, really nice to already have at least one person that was a familiar face here in Bozeman. And then I went to our local yarn store this week, and that was really fun. I went for their Maker's Night. It was adorable. Like the space they had was adorable. They have really comfy couches and chairs, and there was a ton of people there. So I got to talk to a couple people that were nearest to me, but they also had one of the employees from the store host that Maker's Night, and they do every single week. And so they, after about like half an hour, people coming in, it kind of seemed like the whole group was there, and they went around and we did introductions, which was really nice. I don't know if I've done that at like a weekly stitch night before. So I really appreciated that as a new person, getting to like hear everyone's names and what they were working on. So that was really cool. And then they let me know they were also doing a Saturday meetup at one of the restaurants in town. So I went to that on Saturday, and I got to meet another group of people. I mean, a lot of the same people were there, but just where I ended up sitting, kind of led me to meet a couple more people and chat with them. So it was really fun. I had a really great time. Really looking forward to continuing to go to the Maker's Night and other events put on by the yarn store. It's called Stix, STIX, and they've been here for 21 years, which is really cool. And they're super close to me, which is incredible. So not a problem for me to hop down to the yarn store. They have a really great selection as well. What else went on this week? I mean, that's probably pretty much it. We have been trying some of the local restaurants. We were suggested to a pizza place, which is incredible, so delicious. I've been to a Thai place, the same Thai place twice already, because Thai food is always what I get when Kent says, I've already eaten, or like, I don't know what I want. I'm like, well, I'm getting Thai food. And so I've already found like my go-to place for that. We've just pretty much been settling in. The weather has been beautiful. Right now it's like 50 degrees and sunny. So when you're outside, it actually doesn't feel that cold. So I've been doing a lot of walking, a lot of running. Toaster's loving it. Oh my gosh, he is loving our setup. He likes having all the space. He's either on the bed or on the couch, or he has got a dog bed in every room. And our windows are the perfect height that if he's sitting or standing, he can look right outside and bark at other dogs that are walking on the sidewalk outside. So he is absolutely thriving. And yeah, it's just been really, really good. I'm definitely excited. I think even more excited for Vlogmas this year, because it feels like we are somewhere where I can really like hone in and focus on the things I love to do in this season, which is making, of course. I have lots of projects that I'm going to be making, but also doing some holiday baking, getting to watch Christmas movies, and just generally having a cozy time and sharing that on Vlogmas. So like, I'm very excited. Like the traveling the last 2 years was so exciting and so fun in a completely different way. And I think now that part of me has been satisfied, at least for now, I'm ready to go into this other part of me that really likes being at home, that really likes being in one place and just enjoying all that has to offer. So all is well here. All right. Well, that's everything for this episode. Hey, thanks for being here this year. If you're a podcast watcher and you're like, I'm out, I'll see you again in the new year, I will see you then. If you like watching the vlogs, I will see you on Monday for the first Vlogmas episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.